Sarah Martinez pressed her forehead against the cool airplane window, watching ground crew load luggage into the belly of the Boeing 737. At 24 years old, with her baby face, petite 52 frame and dark hair pulled into a messy ponytail, she knew exactly what people saw when they looked at her. A college kid, maybe a high school senior on a school trip. They never saw the warrior. She dressed deliberately for invisibility today. Oversized gray hoodie from her Air Force Academy days, faded jeans, beat-up sneakers. No makeup. Her military-issued backpack was stuffed in the overhead bin of seat 7A, containing her flight suit, her helmet bag with Viper, stenciled in bold letters, and classified mission orders returning her to Langley Air Force Base in Virginia. The businessman settling into seat 7B hadn't even glanced at her. He was mid-40s, expensive suit, Rolex catching the overhead lights. He grunted as he sat down, immediately opened his laptop, and claimed the armrest like it was his birthright. Sarah caught the reflection of his screen, an email to his assistant complaining about being stuck in what looks like a teenager sitting next to him for a cross-country flight. She suppressed a smile. Just last Tuesday, she'd been at 65,000 feet, pulling 9GS in a combat maneuver that would have made this man pass out in seconds. Her F-22 Raptor had screamed through Syrian airspace at Mach 2, evading surface-to-air missiles while providing air cover for ground troops. She'd come home, debriefed for 6 hours, slept for 4, and caught this commercial flight because military transport wasn't available. "Excuse me, sweetie." Sarah looked up. The flight attendant was middle-aged, kind eyes, name tag reading Maria. She held out a packet of colored pencils and a children's activity book featuring cartoon airplanes. "First time flying alone," Maria's voice dripped with motherly concern. "These usually help with nerves, and we have ginger ale if your tummy gets upset during takeoff." Sarah felt the familiar weight of underestimation settle over her shoulders. It happened everywhere, at the grocery store, at restaurants, even on base until she put on her flight suit. Last month, a new security guard at Langley had asked for her parents' ID, assuming she was a dependent trying to access the flight line. "I'll be fine, thank you," Sarah said politely, accepting the activity book to avoid seeming rude. "I fly quite a bit, actually." "Well, aren't you brave?" Maria patted her shoulder. "If you need anything at all, you just press that call button, okay, sweetie?" As Maria moved down the aisle, the businessman snorted without looking up. Sarah caught his screen again, stuck next to some kid who looked scared to fly. Going to be a long 5 hours. If only he knew. Sarah tucked the activity book into the seat pocket and pulled out her worn paperback copy of The Right Stuff, Tom Wolfe's Chronicle of America's First Fighter Pilots and Astronauts. The irony wasn't lost on her. Those men had faced the same doubts, the same skeptics who said they were too young, too reckless, too ambitious. She'd read this book 17 times, once for every threat elimination on her record. Around her, Flight 1547 was filling up. A young mother struggled past with 2 toddlers. An elderly woman with kind eyes took the seat across the aisle. She'd later learn her name was Dorothy. A group of college students laughed in the back rows. Business people typing urgently. Families starting vacations. 187 souls, including crew. Sarah did what she always did on commercial flights. She ran emergency scenarios in her head. Exit rows 7, 14, and 23. Her seat was 7A, window directly over the wing. If they had to evacuate, she could assist. The elderly woman across the aisle might need help. The mother with toddlers was 4 rows back. She calculated oxygen deployment time, 12-14 seconds, life vest locations under seats, brace positions head down, hands clasped behind neck. Her instructor at the academy had called her obsessive. She called it prepared. The businessman's elbow encroached further onto her armrest. Sarah let it go. In a few hours, she'd be home at Langley. She'd debrief with her squadron commander. She'd check on her F-22, her crew chief, Master Sergeant Rodriguez, sent daily photos to her phone. Tomorrow she'd be back in the sky where she belonged. Up there at 50,000 feet, piloting a $150 million fighter jet capable of speeds exceeding 1,500 miles per hour, nobody questioned her age. Nobody offered her coloring books. Up there, she was Captain Martinez. She was Viper. She was lethal grace wrapped in titanium and thrust. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Mike Stevens here, along with my co-pilot Rebecca Chen. We're cleared for departure, expecting smooth skies, flight time approximately 5 hours to Reagan National. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight. Sarah buckled her seatbelt, habit making her tighten it more than necessary, the way she would in her fighter jet. The businessman glanced over for the first time, probably annoyed by the sound of her clicking the buckle extra tight. Their eyes met for half a second. He saw a kid. She saw a man who'd never faced real danger, never had to make split-second decisions with lives on the line, never pushed a machine to its absolute limits while enemy radar painted her jet. She wondered what he'd think if he knew the truth. The engine spooled up. The 737 pushed back from the gate. Sarah watched the tarmac roll by, mentally nodding wind direction, southeast, approximately 8 knots, cloud cover scattered at 8,000 feet, air traffic moderate. The plane taxied to runway 24R takeoff clearance, throttles up. Sarah felt the acceleration, the familiar sensation of thrust pushing her back into her seat, though nothing compared to her Raptor's afterburners that could go from 0 to 400 mph in seconds. The nose lifted. Gear up. They climbed through 1,000 feet, 5,000, 10,000. The businessman finally closed his laptop as the seatbelt sign dinged off. He ordered a scotch, extra ice, and started reading the Wall Street Journal. Sarah opened her book but found herself staring out the window instead, watching clouds drift past. Somewhere up here, other pilots were flying, maybe cargo planes, maybe military aircraft. She wondered if any F-22s were in the area. Her squadron was scattered across missions. Hawk was supposed to be running training exercises at Nellie's. Ghost was on leave. She missed them. Missed the easy camaraderie of the ready room, the shorthand communication that came from flying together, trusting each other with your life at supersonic speeds. 30 minutes into the flight, Sarah closed her eyes, letting herself relax for the first time in days. The mission in Syria had been intense, close calls, split-second decisions, the kind of flying that left you wired for hours afterward. But they'd all come home safe. Mission accomplished. She was just starting to drift into that half-sleep state when she heard it. A sound that didn't belong. Her eyes snapped open. Her entire body went rigid. Years of training, thousands of flight hours, combat experience, all of it screamed danger. It was subtle. Most people wouldn't notice, but Sarah heard the frequency change in the left engine, a whine that was off by maybe half a pitch, a vibration that rattled through the fuselage at the wrong interval. She sat up straight, her hand instinctively reaching for controls that weren't there. The businessman glanced at her, annoyed by her sudden movement. "You okay, kid?" Sarah didn't answer. She was listening, calculating, every sense on high alert. Then the world exploded. The explosion wasn't like the movies. No dramatic fireball visible through the windows, no slow-motion chaos. It was instant, violent, and terrifying. The entire aircraft lurched hard to the left, as if a giant hand had slapped it sideways. Sarah's seatbelt cut into her hips. The businessman's scotch flew across the cabin, ice scattering like shrapnel. Overhead bins popped open, raining luggage onto screaming passengers. The lights flickered, died. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in eerie red. Then came the sound every passenger dreads, the mechanical screech of oxygen masks deploying. Yellow plastic cups dropped from the ceiling like a nightmare waterfall, swinging wildly as the plane continued its violent shake. "Oh God," someone screamed. "We're going to die. Mommy, mommy." The cabin erupted into primal panic. People were crying, screaming, grabbing for masks with shaking hands. A man, too, rose back, was hyperventilating so hard he was turning purple. The young mother Sarah had noticed was trying to secure masks on both toddlers while they shrieked in terror. And then Captain Stevens' voice came over the intercom, tight, controlled, but Sarah could hear the fear underneath. She'd heard that same tone from pilots in combat when things went catastrophically wrong. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain. We've experienced a catastrophic failure of our left engine. We've also lost hydraulic pressure in multiple systems. We are diverting immediately to the nearest airport, Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada. Flight attendants, prepare the cabin for emergency landing procedures. I need everyone to remain calm and follow all instructions." Calm. The word was meaningless. The cabin was chaos incarnate. Sarah's mind, meanwhile, had shifted into combat mode. Her heart rate, which had spiked initially, was now dropping, slowing, becoming controlled. It was the same physiological response she'd trained for years to master. When everyone else panicked, fighter pilots got calm, ice cold. She was already running calculations. Left engine failure, catastrophic but survivable. Loss of hydraulics, serious, potentially fatal. They were at approximately 38,000 feet, descending rapidly. Rate of descent was too fast. The pilots were fighting to control it. Nellis was maybe 150 miles northeast. Flight time at current speed and descent rate, roughly 12–15 minutes. Maybe. The businessman beside her had gone sheet white. His hands trembled violently as he fumbled with his oxygen mask, unable to figure out the simple mechanics. The elastic band twisted. The mask slipped. He was gasping, starting to hyperventilate. Sarah's training overrode everything else. "Stop," she said firmly, her voice cutting through his panic. "Look at me." He didn't respond, still fumbling. "Hey," she grabbed his wrist, not hard but firm enough to break through his terror. "Look at me." His wild eyes met hers. "You're okay, I'm going to help you, nod if you understand." He nodded, gasping. "Good, watch what I do." Sarah took her own mask, demonstrated slowly. "Over your nose and mouth, elastic band over your head, breathe normally, see, simple." Her hands were rock steady. The businessman stared at them. How could she be so calm? Then mimicked her movements. The mask went on. He started breathing, still panicked but functional. "Keep breathing," Sarah said. "In through your nose, out through your mouth. We're going to be fine." How can you?" he gasped. "We're going to crash." "No," Sarah said with absolute certainty. "We're not, trust me." Something in her voice, the unshakable confidence, the complete lack of fear, penetrated his terror. He kept breathing. But Sarah was already moving. She unbuckled, completely against safety protocols, but protocols were written for normal people in normal situations. Sarah had spent her entire adult life rewriting what was normal. Across the aisle, Dorothy, the elderly woman, was struggling with her mask. Her hands, gnarled with arthritis, couldn't grasp the elastic bands. Tears streamed down her weathered face. I can't get it." Sarah crossed the aisle in one smooth motion, dropping to her knees. "Dorothy, that's your name, right? I saw it on your boarding pass. I'm Sarah." "I can't breathe, I can't." "Yes, you can. Look at my eyes, Dorothy, just my eyes." The elderly woman's terrified gaze locked onto Sarah's calm brown eyes. "I've got you, I promise. I'm going to put this mask on you and you're going to breathe normally. Okay. Are we going to die?" Sarah could have lied, could have offered false comfort. Instead, she looked Dorothy dead in the eyes and said, "I promise you, I give you my word, we are going to land safely. Do you trust me?" Dorothy searched her face, found something there, steel, certainty, the absolute conviction of someone who'd stared down death before and won. "Yes," Dorothy whispered. "Good." Sarah fitted the mask gently, making sure it was secure. "There, keep breathing. I'm going to help others, but I'll be right here if you need me." The plane shuddered again, dropping altitude so fast Sarah's stomach lurched. Around her, passengers were screaming, praying. Some had gone silent with shock, staring at nothing. 4 rows back, the young mother was trying to handle 2 screaming toddlers and her own mask. Sarah moved quickly. "I've got the little one," she said, not asking permission. She secured the mask on the younger child, maybe 3 years old, while speaking in a soothing voice. "Hey buddy, this is just like a space helmet. You're an astronaut now, aren't you? Breathing space air." The child screaming reduced to whimpers. The mother stared at Sarah with desperate gratitude. "Thank you. Oh God, thank you. Are we?" "We're going to be fine," Sarah said. "Keep those masks on. Stay calm for your kids. They need to see you being brave." The mother nodded, tears streaming, but she stopped shaking. Sarah made her way back up the aisle, helping 3 more passengers with masks, offering calm reassurance, her voice never wavering. The flight attendants were doing their job. Maria was amazing, actually, keeping her composure despite obvious fear, but they were following scripts. Sarah was operating on combat experience. She'd been in worse, much worse. Like the time her F-22's right engine had exploded over the Persian Gulf at Mach 1.8, and she'd had to nurse a crippled fighter jet back to the carrier, while enemy radar lit her up. Or the mission over Syria where she'd run out of flares and had to outmaneuver 2 SAMs through pure flying skill. This was bad, but it was survivable. If the pilots could maintain control. Sarah made her way back to seat 7A, listening. She could hear the engines. The remaining right engine was screaming, working overtime, burning fuel faster than it should. The pilots were fighting the yoke. She could feel it in how the plane moved, jerky corrections over corrections. They were struggling. The descent rate was too steep. At this rate, they'd lose too much altitude before reaching Nelly's, and without proper hydraulics the landing would be. Her mind flashed through scenarios. None of them were good. The businessman grabbed her arm as she sat. "You're military, aren't you?" Sarah looked at him. No point denying it now. "Air Force." Is there anything?" "Maybe," Sarah said quietly. She was already making a decision that would change everything. "Maybe I can help." She looked toward the cockpit door. Behind that reinforced barrier, 2 commercial pilots were fighting for their lives and the lives of 187 people. They were good pilots. You didn't fly commercial without thousands of hours. But they'd never been in combat, never flown at supersonic speeds, never trained at Nelly's. Sarah had done all 3. She stood up, despite the plane's violent shaking, and started walking toward the front of the cabin. Maria, the flight attendant, saw her coming. "Miss, you need to sit down immediately. This is." "I need to talk to the pilots," Sarah said calmly. "Absolutely not. Federal regulations clearly state." "My name is Captain Sarah Martinez." Sarah's voice changed, carrying command authority that made Maria stop mid-sentence. "United States Air Force. I'm a fighter pilot. I have certifications and flight hours that might help save this plane. Now you can waste precious time arguing with me, or you can let me through that door." Maria's mouth opened, closed. Her eyes went wide. You're a pilot." "Check my bag. Overhead bin 7A, military ID, orders, credentials, everything." The businessman had followed, still recording on his phone. "She's telling the truth. The way she handled the emergency, she's military. Let her help." Maria made a split-second decision. She grabbed Sarah's backpack, fumbled it open, and pulled out the military ID. Her face went pale. The ID showed Captain Sarah Martinez, USAF, pilot designation. Security clearance level, top secret. Assignment, 1st Fighter Wing, Langley Air Force Base. "Oh my God," Maria whispered. "The cockpit," Sarah said urgently. "Now." Maria's training kicked in. She moved to the armored door, knocked in the specific pattern flight attendants used. "Captain Stevens, emergency." The door cracked open maybe 3 inches. Captain Stevens' face appeared, haggard, sweating, eyes wild with stress. "What? We're in the middle of a goddamn emergency." "Sir," Maria said, her voice shaking, "this is Captain Martinez. She's Air Force, a fighter pilot. She says she can help." Stephen's eyes flicked to Sarah, saw a kid in a hoodie, and his face hardened. "I don't need some passenger playing." "I'm an F-22 Raptor pilot," Sarah interrupted, her voice like steel. "I have over 2,000 flight hours including combat missions. I've flown emergency procedures in aircraft far more complex than this 737. I know Nellie's Air Force Base inside and out. I trained there. I can get you priority clearance using military channels your radio doesn't normally access. I can talk you through an approach I've flown 100 times." She locked eyes with Stevens. "Right now, you're descending too fast and burning fuel too quickly. Your hydraulics are failing, which means your landing is going to be a controlled crash at best. I can help you. Let me help you." Stevens stared at this tiny young woman, who spoke with the confidence of a seasoned combat veteran. The plane shuddered violently. An alarm screamed in the cockpit. "Shit," the co-pilot yelled. "We just lost the backup hydraulic system." Stevens made his decision. "Get in here." Sarah slipped through the cockpit door and immediately understood why Stevens had looked so terrified. It was a nightmare. The instrument panel was a Christmas tree of red warning lights. Alarms were screaming, 3 different tones overlapping in an audio assault. The control yoke was shaking so violently Stevens had to grip it with both hands, his knuckles white. The co-pilot, Rebecca Chen, was cycling through emergency checklists, her voice rapid fire as she read procedures that weren't working. Hydraulic pressure, 0. Backup system, offline. Flight control degradation at 70%. Fuel consumption 40% above normal. Descent rate, 3,500 feet per minute, way too fast. We can't slow it down. Through the windscreen, Sarah could see the Nevada desert spreading below them, but they were dropping through the sky like a wounded bird. Stevens shot her a desperate look. "You said you could help, so help." Sarah's eyes swept the panel in seconds, absorbing everything. Her brain, trained through thousands of hours in far more complex cockpits, processed the information instantly. "What's your fuel status?" she asked calmly. 12 minutes, maybe 15 if we're lucky," Chen answered without looking up. "Nellie's is 14 minutes at current speed and descent rate," Sarah calculated. "You won't make it at this angle. You need to shallow out your descent by 5 degrees. "We've tried," Stevens snapped. "The hydraulics are shot every adjustment we make." "You're overcompensating," Sarah said, moving behind them to see the instruments better. "You're fighting the plane. Stop fighting. Let her glide. She wants to find equilibrium. Trust your trim tabs. They're still working. I can see it here." She pointed at a gauge. "Use them to balance out the descent." Stevens glared at her. "I've been flying for 20 years. "And I've been flying fighters for 4, Sarah interrupted. "I've lost engines at supersonic speeds. I've landed with no hydraulics. I've brought home aircraft that shouldn't have made it. Right now, Captain, I'm not trying to take your job. I'm trying to save everyone on this plane. So either listen to me or don't, but decide fast because we have maybe 90 seconds before you lose the option to shallow out." Something in her voice, the absolute certainty, zero arrogance, just facts, made Stevens nod. "Okay, talk me through it." Sarah's voice became steady, methodical. "Small corrections. Don't pull, ease back, 1/4 inch at a time. Let the trim tabs do the work. There, feel that? The resistance." "Yeah." "That's the plane finding her balance. Now hold it steady. Don't overcorrect when she settles, just hold." The screaming alarms reduced by 1. the violent shaking smoothed into a heavy vibration. "Descent rate now 2,800 feet per minute," Chen called out, astonished. "How did you—" "Communication systems," Sarah cut in, already moving to the radio panel. "Which frequency are you on for Nellies?" "Standard civilian emergency frequency. But we're getting delayed responses. They're treating us like normal air traffic, making us wait." "Because you're talking to them like civilian traffic." Sarah's fingers flew across the panel, bypassing frequencies, accessing channels the commercial pilots didn't even know existed. "Nellies is an Air Force base. Military traffic gets priority, but you need to speak their language." She adjusted the final frequency and picked up the headset. Nellies Tower, this is an emergency priority transmission. Authenticate Alpha 79er X-ray." Her voice was crisp, professional, every word precisely enunciated. "This is Captain Sarah Martinez, call sign Viper, service number 2784567, requesting immediate priority emergency landing clearance for civilian aircraft, Boeing 737, Flight 1547, catastrophic engine failure, complete hydraulic failure, 187 souls on board including crew. Currently at Angels 22 and descending. Repeat, this is Viper requesting emergency clearance." Static crackled for 3 seconds that felt like hours. Then a voice came back, young, confused. "Say again your call sign, did you say? Viper." Sarah allowed herself the smallest smile. "Confirmed, Nellies. This is Viper. And before you ask, yes, it's really me. Now patch me through to your tower commander because we have approximately 11 minutes of fuel and I need every emergency vehicle you've got." More static. Voices in the background. She could hear the confusion, the scrambling. Then a different voice came on, deeper, older, carrying command authority. "This is Nellies Tower Commander, Colonel James Harris. Confirm your identity with verification code." Sarah rattled off a 12-digit code from memory. Then added, "Sir, last time I was at Nellies was 8 months ago. I was running combat simulation training. You bought me a beer afterward at the Oak Club and told me, and I'm quoting here, Martinez, you fly like you've got something to prove and it's scary as hell. I told you I had to prove a woman who's 5'2" could outfly every man on your base. You laughed and said I'd already done that 3 times over." Silence. Then, "Jesus Christ, Viper, what the hell are you doing on a commercial flight?" "Long story, sir. Right now I've got a wounded 737, no hydraulics, 1 engine, and I need to bring 187 people home safely. I need runway 21 left. I need it foamed. I need every crash truck you've got. And sir, I need you to clear the entire airspace because this landing is going to be rough." "Done, Viper, we're mobilizing now. Give me your exact position." Chen called out coordinates. Sarah relayed them. "We've got you on radar," Harris confirmed. "Viper, your descent rate is still too fast. At current trajectory, you'll be at Angels 5 when you reach the base perimeter. You need to be at Angels 8 for a safe approach." "Working on it, sir. Captain Stevens here is doing an incredible job keeping us airborne." Stevens glanced at her, surprised by the praise. "Viper, I'm scrambling emergency equipment. Medical teams, fire suppression, the works, and Viper," Harris paused. "I'm also scrambling your squadron. They're at Nellies for training exercises. They want to escort you in." Sarah's breath caught. "Hawk is here." "Hawk and Ghost both. They're spinning up their F-22s right now. They insisted. Should be airborne in 3 minutes." Tears stung Sarah's eyes. She blinked them away. Tell them thanks." "Tell them yourself. They're switching to this frequency. Viper, we've got you. Bring it home." Chen was staring at her with wide eyes. "Your squadron, F-22s, you really are." "Fighter pilot," Sarah confirmed. "And those are my wingmen. They've saved my life. Now they're going to help me save yours." Stevens shook his head in disbelief. "How old are you?" 24. "You're flying F-22 Raptors at 24. Youngest pilot ever qualified, Sarah said matter-of-factly. Sir, we need to focus. 10 minutes to Nellie's. Let's talk about approach vectors. That runway, 21 left, I've landed on it in weather you wouldn't believe. I can walk you through every foot of the approach. The radio crackled again. A new voice, familiar, beloved. Unidentified 737, this is Raptor flight leader, call sign Hawk. We're wheels up in 60 seconds. You've got company coming and we are not letting anything happen to that plane. Sarah grabbed the mic, her professional composure cracking slightly. Hawk, this is Viper. I'm in the cockpit, it's really me. The explosion of shock on the other end was audible. Viper. What the how are you? Never mind, doesn't matter. V, we've got you. Ghost and I are coming. Sit tight. Hawk, we're not exactly sitting. We're falling with style. Despite everything, Hawk laughed. Did you just quote Toy Story during an emergency landing? Hey, if I'm going down with pop culture references. You're not going down, we won't allow it. See you in 2 minutes, V. Hawk out. Sarah set down the mic and turned to Stevens and Chen. Both were staring at her like she'd just grown wings. Okay, she said, all business again. Here's what's about to happen. 2 of the most advanced fighter jets ever built are going to pull alongside us. Don't be alarmed. They're the good guys. They're going to escort us in, provide visual confirmation of our damage, and make sure we have clear airspace. Captain Stevens, I need you to maintain current heading. We're going to execute a long, shallow approach. Not standard for civilians, but I've done it 100 times in fighters. Whatever you say, Stevens said quietly. You've earned my trust. Through the windscreen, the desert was rising to meet them. And then, screaming out of the sun like avenging angels, 2 gray shadows appeared. F-22 Raptors. Sarah's heart soared even as the plane continued falling. Her squadron had arrived. They came in fast and low, 2 streaks of gray cutting through the Nevada sky like bullets fired from heaven itself. Rebecca Chen saw them first on the radar. Contact, 2 aircraft approaching at, oh my God, at 600 knots. They're coming in hot. Don't panic, Sarah said calmly. That's just Hawk showing off. And then they were there. The F-22 Raptors materialized alongside the wounded 737 like apparitions, 1 on each wing, so close Sarah could see the pilots in their cockpits. The jets were magnificent, sleek, deadly, every line designed for one purpose: air superiority. Each aircraft cost $150 million and represented the pinnacle of American aerospace engineering. Sarah had flown one through combat. These machines were extensions of her soul. The Raptor on the left executed a perfect wing dip, a pilot's salute. Through the canopy, Sarah saw him, Captain James Hawk Richardson, 29, her wingman for 3 years, the pilot who'd saved her life over Syria when she'd run out of countermeasures and he'd drawn enemy fire to himself. She pressed her hand against the cockpit window. Hawk saw the gesture and placed his gloved hand against his canopy in mirror image. Stevens and Chen sat frozen, mouths open in awe. Holy shit, Stevens breathed. They're so close they could hit us. They won't, Sarah said softly. Hawk could fly formation in a thunderstorm with his eyes closed, and Ghost on the right. She once flew 3 feet off my wing through a sandstorm. They're the best. The radio crackled. Well, well, well. Viper, you really know how to make an entrance. Most people just land normally. Sarah grabbed the mic, grinning despite everything. Where's the fun in that, Hawk? Besides, I heard you were getting bored with routine training. Thought I'd spice up your day. Mission accomplished. Ghost, you seeing what I'm seeing? The second F-22, flown by Captain Lisa Ghost Chen, 27, call sign earned for her ability to appear on enemy radar and disappear like a phantom, pulled in tighter. Confirmed, Hawk. Viper, you've got significant damage to your left engine housing. It's completely shredded. Also seeing fuel vapor, slow leak from the left wing tank. Not critical yet, but it's there. Stevens' face went pale. Fuel leak. We have a fuel leak. Small one, Sarah said quickly. Ghost rate of loss. Maybe half a gallon per minute. You'll make it to Nellie's, but it'll be close. Also, your left landing gear looks misaligned. Did you know that? Sarah's stomach sank. Negative, can you confirm? Confirmed. It's deployed but canted about 15 degrees off center. That's going to make your landing interesting. Stevens looked at Sarah with pure terror. Interesting. We're going to cartwheel when we touch down. No, Sarah said firmly. We're not. We'll compensate. Land on the right gear first, keep the weight off the left as long as possible. Ghost, what's the visual on the fuselage stress? I'm seeing some buckling near the wing root, but nothing catastrophic. You're holding together, Viper. This bird wants to live. Behind them in the passenger cabin, people had noticed the F-22s. The screaming had stopped. Passengers pressed against windows, staring in awe at these war machines flying protective formation around their dying aircraft. Dorothy, the elderly woman, was crying, but not from fear anymore. They came for us, she whispered to the person next to her. The Air Force came for us. The businessman from 7B had his phone out, recording everything. His hands were shaking, but he was filming the Raptors with something like religious wonder. Nellie's tower, this is Hawk, the radio crackled. We have visual confirmation on civilian aircraft. Significant damage but airframe intact. Recommend full emergency protocol. This bird's coming in hot and she's coming in broken. Copy that, Hawk. All emergency services in position. Runway 21 left is foamed and ready. Viper, you're cleared for approach. Wind is 280 at 8 knots. Visibility 10 miles. You've got perfect conditions. Sarah closed her eyes briefly. Perfect conditions. They'd need them. Captain Stevens, she said quietly, I'm going to guide you through every second of this approach. I've landed at Nellie's in F-22s exactly 127 times. I know that runway like I know my own heartbeat. Trust me. Stevens looked at this tiny young woman who'd taken control of a disaster without ever raising her voice or showing fear, who had fighter jets responding to her call sign, who spoke with the confidence of someone who'd cheated death before. Yeah, he said, I trust you. Good. First, we need to shallow out the descent more. We're at Angels 18 now, 18,000 feet. We need to be at Angels 8 when we cross the perimeter fence. That gives us 10,000 feet to lose over. She calculated rapidly. Approximately 40 miles. That's a descent rate of 250 feet per mile, Chen finished, already working the math. Exactly. Rebecca, you're good with numbers. I like you. Sarah pointed at the instruments. See this gauge? That's your vertical speed indicator. I need you to keep us between 2,000 and 2,500 feet per minute descent. Not more, not less. Can you do that? Yes, Chen said, determination replacing fear. Mike, you focus on heading and keeping us stable. Don't fight the controls, gentle inputs only. The plane is damaged. She'll respond, but slowly. Think of it like steering a boat, not a car. Stevens nodded, adjusting his grip. Viper, this is Ghost. You're doing great, but FYI, we've got about 6 minutes to the base perimeter. After that, it's all commitment. No going around, no second chances. Understood. One shot, one landing. Story of my life. Sarah's voice was light, but her jaw was set. Hawk's voice came through, softer now. V, remember that time over the Gulf, when your engine caught fire and you had to dead stick it back to the carrier? You mean when you talked me through every second of the approach while I was trying not to eject into shark-infested water? Yeah, I remember. You made that landing, textbook perfect. This is easier. That was a $150 million fighter with advanced fly-by-wire systems. This is a wounded commercial jet with no hydraulics and misaligned landing gear. True, but that time you were alone. This time you've got 187 people counting on you. And V, Hawk paused, You've never let anyone down. You're not starting today. Sarah felt tears threaten again. She blinked them away. Thanks, Hawk. Plus, if you crash, I'm never letting you live it down. I'll tell everyone at the O Club that Viper got beaten by a civilian aircraft. Despite everything, Sarah laughed. You're an asshole. That's why we're friends. Ghost status. 5 minutes to perimeter. Viper, you're lined up perfect. Descent rate is good. Fuel holding steady barely. You're going to make it. Below, Nellie's Air Force Base spread across the desert like a small city. Sarah could see the runways, the hangars, the barracks where she'd lived during training. And there, runway 21 left, covered in white suppression foam, emergency vehicles lined up like toy trucks, hundreds of personnel watching. Angels 10, Chen called out, 10,000 feet. Perfect, maintain rate. Mike, start your turn to heading 210. We're lining up for final approach. The 737 banked gently, too gently, the hydraulics screaming in protest. But they made the turn. Viper, this is Nellie's tower. We've got you on visual. The whole base is watching. Bring her home, Captain. Sarah took a deep breath. Through the windscreen, she could see the runway growing larger. 2 miles, 1 mile. Hawk Ghost, you're cleared to break off at 500 feet. Negative, Viper, Hawk said firmly. We're with you all the way down. Hawk, that's against. Screw regulations. You're my wingman. Wingmen don't leave each other. We're staying. Sarah's voice cracked. Copy that. Angels 5, Chen called. 5,000 feet. Descent rate 2,200, looking good. Gear down, Sarah ordered. Stevens pulled the lever. The grinding sound of landing gear deploying filled the cockpit, but it was wrong, uneven. Right gear deployed and locked, Chen reported. Left gear, deployed but showing yellow, not fully locked. It'll hold, Sarah said with more confidence than she felt. It has to. Angels 3, 3,000 feet. Mike, reduce speed to 180 knots. The plane slowed, shuddering. 1,000 feet, Chen called. The runway filled the windscreen. Sarah could see individual foam bubbles, emergency crews, people watching. 500 feet, Hawk Ghost. Right here, V, Hawk said, all the way down. The 2 F-22s stayed locked in formation, 3 aircraft descending as one. 200 feet, 100 feet. Sarah's hand found the cross around her neck. 50 feet, Captain Stevens, this is all you. Flare. Easy, ease back, perfect. The wounded 737 kissed the foam-covered runway. The right landing gear hit first, exactly as Sarah had instructed. For 1 perfect second, it seemed like everything might work. Then physics took over. The left gear, misaligned and damaged, collapsed the instant it touched down. The plane lurched violently to the left with a metal-shredding scream that would haunt passengers' nightmares for years. Sparks erupted as the wing dragged against the runway, carving a trench through the foam. In the cabin, passengers screamed. Oxygen masks swung wildly. The plane started to spin, a deadly cartwheel that could tear them apart. Right rudder, full right, Sarah shouted. Stevens stomped the pedal with everything he had. The working engine screamed in protest, fighting the spin. The plane rotated 90 degrees, sliding sideways down the runway at 120 miles per hour, leaving a trail of destroyed metal and foam spray 30 feet high. Keep the nose, UP. Don't let it dip. Chen pulled back on the yoke with both hands, tendons standing out on her neck. The nose stayed up barely. They were sliding, spinning, disintegrating, but they were slowing. 100 mph, 80, 60. Chunks of wing tore away. The shriek of metal on concrete was deafening. Emergency systems deployed. Fire suppression foam erupted from the fuselage. 40 mph, 20. And then, after 45 seconds that contained entire lifetimes of terror, they stopped. Complete silence. The engine spooled down. Alarms fell quiet. Through the cockpit window, Sarah saw emergency vehicles converging like a swarm. "We're down," Stevens whispered, his entire body shaking. "We're alive. We're actually alive." Chen was crying, her hands still gripping the yoke. "We made it. Oh God, we made it." Sarah was already moving. "Outstanding work, both of you, but we need to evacuate now. That fuel leak, we're sitting in a pool of jet fuel." Stevens nodded, trying to stand on legs that wouldn't support him. Sarah caught his arm, steadying him. "You saved everyone on this plane," Stevens said, gripping her shoulder. "You know that, right? Without you, we'd all be dead." "You did the flying, Captain. I just helped with the GPS." "Bullshit," Chen said fiercely, wiping tears. "You're a goddamn hero." Outside, the emergency slides deployed with their characteristic whoosh bang. Through the cockpit door, Sarah could hear Maria directing the evacuation. The flight attendant was magnificent, calm and professional despite everything. They secured the cockpit and made their way to the cabin. Passengers were sliding down the emergency chutes, some laughing with hysteria, others crying, many in shock. Parents clutched children. People helped each other toward exits. Sarah moved through the chaos, checking rows, making sure no one was left behind. She found a teenage boy frozen in his seat, catatonic with fear. "Hey," she said gently, kneeling beside him. "What's your name?" No response. The kid was maybe 16, eyes glazed. "I'm Sarah. I need you to come with me, okay? Your mom's probably waiting outside." She took his hand. It was ice cold. "Come on, we're safe now. Time to go home." Something in her voice penetrated his shock. He nodded and let her guide him to the exit. Dorothy was waiting at the emergency door, refusing to slide until Sarah appeared. "There you are," the elderly woman said. "I wasn't leaving without seeing you safe." "Go," Sarah urged. "I'm right behind you." Dorothy grabbed her face with both hands and kissed her forehead. "You're an angel, my guardian angel." Then she slid down to safety. The businessman from 7B approached, his expensive suit ruined, but he was alive. "I need to know your name, your real name." "Sarah Martinez." "Captain Sarah Martinez," he corrected. "I'm Richard Chen. I judged you, dismissed you, I'm sorry, and I'm alive because you're extraordinary." "You're alive because Captain Stevens is an excellent pilot and a brave man. Now go, get off this plane." Richard slid down the chute, still recording everything on his phone. Maria, the flight attendant, appeared at Sarah's elbow. "Everyone's out except crew. You should go. You're injured." Sarah looked down. Her arm was bleeding, a gash from something during the landing she hadn't even noticed. "Crew goes last, that's the rule." "You're not crew, sweetie." Sarah smiled. "Today I was." She helped the last flight attendant down, then checked every single row one more time. Empty. Everyone had made it. Sarah was the last person to reach the emergency door. She sat on the edge, looking at the foam-covered runway, the emergency vehicles, the organized chaos of the response. Then she slid down. Her feet hit the tarmac and she stumbled slightly. The adrenaline was finally wearing off, exhaustion crashing over her like a wave. And that's when she saw them. Hundreds of people lined the edges of the runway. Air Force personnel in uniform, ground crews, maintenance staff, pilots, officers. They'd all stopped what they were doing to watch. At the front stood a woman in a crisp uniform with 3 stars on her shoulders, General Patricia Morrison, Nellie's base commander. Behind her stood rows of pilots in flight suits. And in the center, having just landed their F-22s and sprinted across the tarmac still wearing their helmets under their arms, Hawk and Ghost. Sarah stood there in her ruined hoodie and jeans, covered in foam and blood, looking every bit like a college kid who'd been in an accident. General Morrison stepped forward, came to attention, and raised her hand in salute. And then, like a wave rippling outward, every single person, 300 military personnel, snapped to attention and saluted. Sarah's breath caught. Her hand trembled as she returned the salute, tears streaming down her face. The businessman, Richard, captured it all on video. The tiny young woman in civilian clothes, looking impossibly young, being honored by an entire Air Force base. Hawk broke formation and ran to her, Ghost right behind him. They grabbed her in a fierce hug, lifting her off the ground. "You crazy, magnificent maniac," Hawk said, his voice thick. "You scared the hell out of us." "But you did it," Ghost added. 187 people, you brought them all home." Sarah buried her face in Hawk's shoulder and let herself cry. Behind them, passengers were gathering, watching this unfold. Paramedics were checking injuries. Miraculously, nothing serious. People were calling loved ones, crying with relief. Dorothy stood with her hand over her heart, watching the military salute the girl who'd held her hand and promised her safety. Richard was already uploading his video to social media, his hands still shaking. And Maria stood with the other flight attendants, watching Sarah being embraced by her squadron, finally understanding who had been sitting in seat 7A. General Morrison approached, extending her hand. "Captain Martinez, hell of a day off." Sarah straightened, wiped her eyes, and shook the general's hand. "Ma'am, thank you for the emergency response. Your crews were perfect." "My crews followed your instructions. You coordinated this entire landing." Morrison smiled. "Welcome to Nellie's, Captain, though I wish it had been under better circumstances." "Ma'am, any landing you walk away from is a good landing." "Indeed," Morrison glanced at the gathered crowd. "Your passengers are asking about you. They want to know who you are." Sarah looked at the 187 people she'd helped save. They were staring at her, this kid who'd been dismissed, underestimated, ignored. "Just someone who was in the right place at the right time, ma'am." "Bullshit," Hawk said. "You're Viper, and these people deserve to know they had a legend sitting in seat 7A. Richard Chen pushed forward through the crowd, his phone still recording. "Please," he called out, "we need to know, who are you really?" Sarah looked at Hawk, at Ghost, at General Morrison, then at the 187 faces watching her. She took a breath. "My name is Captain Sarah Martinez, United States Air Force. Call sign, Viper. I'm an F-22 Raptor pilot stationed at Langley Air Force Base, and I'm very glad we all made it home safely." The crowd erupted. Richard Chen's video uploaded at 3:47 p.m. Pacific Time. By 4:15 p.m., it had 1 million views. By 5:00 p.m., 10 million. By 6:00 p.m., it was the #1 trending topic worldwide on every social media platform. The footage was raw, visceral, impossibly compelling. The F-22s appearing like guardian angels. The terrifying landing, metal screaming, foam spraying, the plane spinning in what should have been a fatal cartwheel. And then, the moment that broke the internet. Hundreds of military personnel saluting a tiny young woman in a hoodie who looked young enough to be in high school. Richard had captured audio too. Sarah's voice identifying herself. "Captain Sarah Martinez, United States Air Force. Call sign, Viper. F-22 Raptor pilot." The contrast was staggering. This kid, this girl who'd been offered a coloring book, she was a combat pilot flying the most advanced fighter jet in the world. The media went absolutely insane. Within 2 hours, every major news outlet had picked up the story. CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, BBC, Al Jazeera, all of them scrambling to understand who Sarah Martinez was. The Air Force Public Affairs Office at the Pentagon was overwhelmed. Phone lines jammed. Email servers crashed. They'd never seen anything like this level of public interest. At Nellie's, Sarah sat in a medical bay getting her arm stitched up while outside. Reporters were already gathering at the base gates, demanding access. 12 stitches, the medic said, tying off the final suture. You're lucky, could have been much worse. Thanks, Doc. Sarah flexed her arm experimentally. It hurt, but it worked. General Morrison entered the room, her expression caught between amusement and concern. Captain Martinez, we have a situation. Ma'am. You're famous, like spectacularly famous. The video of the landing has 50 million views and climbing. The Air Force Secretary is calling. The Secretary of Defense wants to talk to you. And, she paused, the President's office just reached out. Sarah blinked. The President. The President of the United States would like to thank you personally for your service and for saving 187 American lives. Morrison pulled out her phone, showing Sarah the screen. It was a tweet from at POTUS. Today, Captain Sarah Martinez showed us the very best of American heroism. At just 24, this remarkable young woman saved 187 lives. Thank you for your service, Captain. You make us all proud. United States. Sarah stared at the phone. The tweet had 2.3 million likes in 30 minutes. This is insane, she whispered. It gets better, Morrison said, scrolling. Or worse, depending on your perspective. The passengers are giving interviews, every single one of them. She pulled up a news clip. Dorothy appeared on screen, crying as she spoke to a reporter. That beautiful young girl, and she is just a girl, so young, she held my hand at 40,000 feet and told me we'd be safe. I believed her because I could see it in her eyes. She'd seen worse. She'd survived worse. She was going to make sure we did too. She's an angel sent from heaven. Another clip, the young mother with the 2 toddlers. She secured my baby's oxygen mask while the plane was falling out of the sky. She was calm, completely calm, like this was just another Tuesday for her. My children are alive because of Captain Martinez. Another, a teenage girl, maybe 17. I saw her and thought she was like maybe a college student. She looked so normal, so regular. Then the F-22s showed up and everyone was saluting her, and I realized she's like the most badass person I've ever seen. She's my hero now, like forever. Morrison switched to another channel. Richard Chen was on CNN, being interviewed live. I judged her, he was saying, his voice thick with emotion. I saw a kid in a hoodie and I dismissed her. I actually complained about sitting next to her. And then the emergency happened and she became transformed. I've never seen anything like it. She helped people with their oxygen masks. She walked through a crashing plane like it was a gentle breeze. She saved my life while I was too stupid to see who she really was. The interviewer leaned forward. Mr. Chen, what are you going to do now? I'm starting a scholarship fund, the Seat 7A Foundation, for young women pursuing military aviation careers, because sometimes heroes sit right beside us and we're too blind to see them. I'm making sure we see them from now on. Sarah felt tears building. He's starting a scholarship. That's not all, Morrison said gently. She pulled up another video, this one from inside the cockpit, filmed by Maria, the flight attendant, on her phone. It showed Sarah coordinating the landing, her voice steady and professional, guiding Stevens and Chen through every second. The video had 40 million views. The comment section was exploding. She's 24. I'm 24 and I can barely adult. She's out here saving lives in fighter jets. That voice, that's command authority. That's someone who's been in combat. That's a warrior. The way she talks to the pilots, no ego, just expertise, giving them confidence while guiding them. That's leadership. I'm a commercial pilot with 20 years experience. What she did was extraordinary. She saved that plane. Morrison scrolled further. The Air Force had released Sarah's official photograph, her in full flight suit, standing in front of her F-22, helmet tucked under one arm, the American flag rippling behind her. The photo was already iconic. News outlets were running it side by side with the video of her in the hoodie. The transformation was staggering. The media wants interviews, Morrison said. All of them. CNN, Fox, NBC, ABC, CBS, NPR, The New York Times, Washington Post, Time Magazine, everyone. They're offering substantial sums of money. I don't want money. I figured, but Captain, you need to understand, you can't hide from this. The story is already out there. Your name, your call sign, your record. People are digging into everything. Sarah's phone, which had been confiscated during the medical examination, was returned to her. The moment she turned it on, it exploded with notifications. Hundreds of texts, thousands of missed calls. Messages from her squadron. Viper, you're famous. Holy shit, V, you're all over the news. Call me immediately, your co. Messages from the Air Force Academy. Captain Martinez, the entire academy is watching your interviews. You're an inspiration. Messages from her mother. 12 voicemails, each one progressively more emotional as she watched the news coverage of her daughter saving a plane full of people. Sarah listened to the last voicemail. Her mother was crying. Mija, I just saw the video, I saw you. Everyone's calling me asking about you. They're saying you're a hero. Baby, I'm so proud I can't breathe. Call me. Please call me. I love you so much. Sarah's vision blurred with tears. Hawk and Ghost appeared in the doorway. V, you okay? Hawk asked, concerned. I just wanted to get home, Sarah said quietly. I just wanted to fly commercial, mind my business, get back to Langley. Now I'm famous, Ghost finished. Viral, a national hero. I'm not a hero, I just helped land a plane. You saved 187 lives, Hawk said firmly. You coordinated an emergency landing in a crippled aircraft with no hydraulics, using skills and knowledge that took you years to acquire. You used military channels to get priority clearance. You talked 2 commercial pilots through an approach they'd never flown. You kept everyone calm. And you walked off that plane last, making sure everyone was safe before you took care of yourself. V, that's the definition of heroism. Sarah shook her head, but Hawk gripped her shoulders. Listen to me. Right now, millions of people, especially young women, are watching your story. They're seeing a 24-year-old woman who looks like she should be worrying about college exams, and she's flying F-22s and saving lives. Do you understand what that means? Do you understand how many girls are looking at you right now thinking, I could do that? I could be her. Hawk's right, Ghost said. When I was 17, I thought fighter pilots were all 6-foot-tall guys named Maverick. I didn't think someone like me, a woman, Asian, 5'4", could do this. If I'd seen someone like you when I was younger, it would have changed everything. Sarah looked at them, these people who'd become her family. What do I do? You tell your story, Morrison said from the doorway. You do a few interviews, controlled, professional. You show people who you are. And then you go back to Langley and keep being Viper. The Air Force will handle the media circus. But Sarah, you need to own this moment. Because whether you like it or not, you're a role model now. Sarah took a deep breath. Through the window, she could see the sun setting over the Nevada desert. Somewhere out there, 187 people were calling their families, telling them they'd survived, telling them about the kid in seat 7A who'd saved them. Okay, she said finally, I'll do one interview, just one, and then I go home. Morrison smiled. Time magazine is offering their cover story. The kid in 7A, how America's youngest fighter pilot saved a plane full of people who didn't know they were flying with a legend. It's a good headline. It's a ridiculous headline. It's accurate, Hawk said. Come on, V, let's get you cleaned up. You've got a cover shoot to do. 3 days later, Sarah sat in a conference room at Langley Air Force Base, surrounded by cardboard boxes. Letters, thousands of them. They'd started arriving the day after the landing, first a trickle, then a flood. The base mailroom had been overwhelmed. These boxes represented just the first wave. There are more, her Colonel Marcus Webb said from the doorway. A lot more. The Pentagon is forwarding packages by the truckload. We've never seen anything like this. Sarah opened one envelope at random. Inside was a hand-drawn picture from a 6-year-old girl named Emma, a crayon drawing of a girl with wings flying next to an airplane. The caption read, "Thank you for saving my Grammy. She was on the plane. You're my hero." Sarah's throat tightened. Another letter from a high school senior in Texas. Dear Captain Martinez, I'm applying to the Air Force Academy next year. 2 weeks ago, my guidance counselor told me I should reconsider because I'm not the right fit. I'm 51 and female, so I know what he meant. Then I saw your story. I saw you, someone who looks like me, flying F-22s and saving lives. I sent my application yesterday. Thank you for showing me it's possible. Jessica, age 17. Sarah set the letter down carefully, blinking back tears. The Time magazine interview had published that morning. The cover photo showed Sarah in her flight suit, helmet under her arm, standing in front of her F-22 at sunset. She looked every bit the warrior she was, confident, capable, young, and completely badass. The article had been fair, honest, comprehensive. They'd interviewed everyone, the passengers, the pilots, her squadron, even her high school teachers. The story it told was of a young woman who'd overcome every obstacle, shattered every stereotype, and proved that heroism doesn't come in expected packages. By noon, the magazine had sold out its entire print run. They'd ordered an emergency second printing, the first time in 20 years. Sarah's phone buzzed. A text from her mother. "Mija, I'm at the grocery store and there are 5 copies of your magazine at checkout. Everyone is buying them. The cashier asked if I knew you. I cried in the cereal aisle. Te amo." Sarah smiled through her tears. Another buzz. Richard Chen. The Seat 7A Foundation just received its first major donation, $2 million from an anonymous tech executive. "We're going to change lives, Captain. Thank you for inspiring this." Hawk appeared in the doorway carrying coffee. "You okay?" "Reading letters from people whose lives I apparently changed by just doing my job." "Not just doing your job. You went above and beyond, V." He sat down beside her, picking up a letter randomly. "Listen to this one. Dear Captain Martinez, I'm a single mother raising 3 daughters. When I saw you save that plane, I showed the video to my girls. My youngest, who's 8, said she wants to be a fighter pilot now. She's never said that before. She's always been told girls can't do things like that. You showed her different. Thank you for being the role model my daughters needed." Hawk set the letter down. "That's what you did. You changed what's possible in people's minds." Sarah opened another envelope. This one was from Dorothy. "My dearest Sarah, I can't stop thinking about you. About your hand in mine, your steady voice telling me everything would be okay. I'm 73 years old and I've met a lot of people in my life, but I've never met anyone like you. My granddaughters, I have 4, are obsessed with you. They've watched every interview, read every article. The youngest, Sophie, cut her hair short because Captain Viper has short hair and she's cool. She's 9. I hope you understand what you've done. You didn't just save my life that day. You changed it. You've changed so many lives. Please come visit if you're ever in Phoenix. I make excellent pie, and I'd love to properly thank the angel who saved me. With endless gratitude. Dorothy Miller." Sarah pressed the letter to her chest. "You should visit her," Ghost said, entering the room with a tablet. "But first, you need to see this." She pulled up a video, a news segment from that morning. It showed a military recruitment center in Chicago. The line to speak with recruiters stretched around the block. The reporter was interviewing young women in line. "Why are you here today?" "I saw Captain Martinez. I want to be like her. She made me realize I could do this. I always thought fighter pilots were men. Seeing her, someone who looks like a regular person who's young like me, it changed everything." The recruitment officer being interviewed said, "We've seen a 340% increase in female applicants this week. We're calling it the Viper effect. Captain Martinez has single-handedly changed the perception of who can serve in combat roles. Ghost paused the video. V, you're changing the military for the better. Sarah didn't know what to say. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Captain Martinez. Speaking. This is Captain Mike Stevens, from Flight 1547. I hope it's okay that I called. I got your number from the Air Force Public Affairs Office. Captain Stevens, of course, how are you? Alive, thanks to you. His voice was thick with emotion. Listen, Rebecca and I have been doing interviews, trying to make sure people understand what you did, but there's something I needed to tell you personally. Okay. I've been flying commercial aircraft for 22 years. I'm a good pilot, I know I am. But that day when everything went wrong, I was terrified. I was out of my depth. And then you walked into my cockpit, this kid who looked like she should be asking for homework help, and you just took control. Not in a bossy way, but in this calm, competent way that made me believe we'd survive. He paused. You saved my life, Sarah. You saved Rebecca's life. You saved 185 passengers, but more than that, you gave me my confidence back. You showed me what true mastery looks like. I'm a better pilot now because of you. I wanted you to know that. Sarah's vision blurred. Thank you, Captain. That means everything. One more thing. My daughter is 12. She wants to be a pilot now because of you, so thank you for that too. After he hung up, Sarah sat in silence, surrounded by thousands of letters, feeling the weight of what had happened settling over her. She just wanted to catch a flight home. Instead, she'd inspired a generation. Colonel Webb returned with more boxes. These just arrived. Also, the Secretary of Defense is arriving tomorrow to personally thank you. And Sarah, he smiled. Your squadron is planning something. They won't tell me what, but Hawk has that look he gets when he's planning mischief. Sarah laughed despite her tears. Of course he does. That evening, Sarah sat in her quarters at Langley, video calling her mother in El Paso. Her mom was still crying, had been crying on and off for 3 days. Mija, they played your interview on Univision. Everyone in the neighborhood is talking about you. Mrs. Garcia's daughter wants to join the Air Force now. The Rodriguez twins asked for flight lessons for Christmas. You've made everyone so proud. Maman, I just did my job. No, baby. You showed the world what I've always known, that my daughter is extraordinary, that you can be small and young and still be the strongest person in the room, that you can face anything and win. Sarah's mother smiled through her tears. Your father would be so proud. Sarah's father, a Marine who died when she was 10, had been her first hero. She'd learned about service, honor, and sacrifice from him. I hope so, Maman. I know so. Now when can I see you? Everyone wants to meet you, interview you, have you speak. I'm flying again tomorrow, Sarah said firmly. That's what I need. I need to be back in the sky. Her mother understood. Then fly, Mija. Fly like you always do, like you own the heavens. After the call, Sarah walked to the window. Outside, the flight line was quiet, her F-22 sitting in its hangar, waiting for her. Tomorrow she'd be back where she belonged, in the cockpit, in the sky, being Viper. But tonight she opened one more letter. This one from a girl named Maria, age 14, from Inner City Los Angeles. Dear Captain Viper, I'm poor, I'm Latina, I'm small. Everyone tells me to have realistic dreams. Then I saw you. You're everything they say I can't be, and you're doing it. I'm going to be a pilot. Because of you, I believe I can. Thank you for showing me heroes look like me. Maria. Sarah pressed the letter to her heart and smiled. Yeah, she'd made the right choice that day, walking into that cockpit. Dawn broke over Langley Air Force Base, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Sarah stood on the flight line, hand on the fuselage of her F-22 Raptor, feeling the cool metal beneath her palm. 5 days since the emergency landing. 5 days of interviews, phone calls, letters, fame. 5 days of being Captain Sarah Martinez, American hero. She was exhausted from all of it. But here, in the quiet morning with her aircraft, she was just Viper again. Master Sergeant Rodriguez approached with her helmet. On the side, he'd added something new, a tiny painted commercial airliner below her 17 simulation kill marks. "Figured you earned it, Captain," he said with a grin. "Not every day you save 187 souls." Sarah traced the new marking with her finger. "Thanks, Rodriguez." "There's something else." He gestured to the other side of the helmet. Someone had painted a small guardian angel with the number 187 beneath it. Sarah's eyes stung with tears. "Rodriguez." "Wasn't me, that was Hawk and Ghost. They worked on it all night, said you needed to remember." "I won't forget," Sarah whispered. She began her pre-flight ritual, the familiar routine centering her. Flight suit, check. Harness, check. G-suit, check. Survival vest, check. Helmet, check. Each piece transformed her from the girl in the hoodie into Captain Martinez, into Viper. She climbed the ladder into her cockpit, settling into the seat that fit her like it had been molded to her body. Her hands found the controls automatically, muscle memory from thousands of hours. This was home. "Tower, this is Viper. Request permission to taxi." "Viper, you are cleared. Welcome back, Captain. The sky's been waiting for you." Sarah smiled inside her oxygen mask. The F-22's engine spooled up with that familiar roar she felt in her chest, in her bones, in her soul. She taxied to runway 3, the morning sun bright on her canopy. At the end of the runway, she could see people gathering, her squadron, ground crew, even some base personnel who'd come to watch Viper fly again. "Viper, you're cleared for takeoff. Show us what you've got." Sarah pushed the throttles to military power, then slammed them into afterburner. The Raptor leaped forward like a caged predator finally released. The acceleration pressed her back into her seat. This was nothing like the gentle push of a commercial airliner. This was raw, brutal, beautiful power. "Rotate at 120 knots, gear up, nose skyward." And then she was airborne, climbing almost vertically, afterburners painting twin trails of fire against the morning sky. "Viper's airborne," she called out, her voice steady, happy, free. "Copy that, Viper. Hawk and Ghost are waiting at Angels 20. Sarah grinned. Of course they were. She went supersonic at 8,000 feet, the sonic boom rolling across the base like thunder. At 20,000 feet she leveled off and saw them. Her wingmen, her family, 2 F-22s in perfect formation. "Took you long enough, V," Hawk said. "We were starting to think you'd forgotten how to fly." "Forgotten? I've been away for 5 days, not 5 years." "Felt like years. You ready to actually work, or are you too famous now?" Sarah rolled inverted just for the joy of it, then pulled into a barrel roll. "Does that answer your question?" Ghost laughed. "She's back. The real Viper is back." They flew together, 3 Raptors in perfect synchronization, executing maneuvers that looked like aerial ballet. Split-S turns, Immelman turns, tactical scissors, the kind of flying that required absolute trust and precision. This was what Sarah was born to do. "Viper, this is Langley Tower. We're receiving a call on the civilian emergency frequency. Someone asking for you specifically." Sarah's brow furrowed. "Patch them through." Static, then a familiar voice. "Captain Martinez. This is Flight 1547, Captain Stevens and First Officer Chen. We're inbound to Reagan National, and we wanted to see if our guardian angel was flying today." Sarah's heart swelled. "Flight 1547, this is Viper. I'm airborne, you 2 flying again." "First flight back," Chen said, her voice emotional. "It was hard, really hard, but we're doing it, because you taught us that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's flying anyway." "You're going to do great," Sarah said. "You're both excellent pilots, trust yourselves." "We do now because of you," Clear skies, Viper. Clear skies, 1547. Sarah blinked back tears. Even here, 20,000 feet above the earth, traveling at 600 miles per hour, their story reached her. Her radio crackled again. Viper, this is Langley Tower. We have about 50 news crews at the front gate wanting to film you landing. Should we tell them to leave? Sarah thought about it. About the letters from young girls who saw themselves in her. About Maria from Lowe's Angels who believed she could be a pilot now. About Jessica applying to the Air Force Academy. About the 340% increase in female recruitment. Negative Tower, let them film. If it inspires one more kid to reach higher, it's worth it. Copy that, Viper. They're going to love this. Sarah flew for another hour, running through tactical maneuvers, feeling the G-forces, pushing herself and her aircraft to the limits. This was who she was, not the girl in seat 7A, not the hero from the news stories, but Viper, fighter pilot, warrior, protector. Finally, fuel running low, she headed back to base. Langley Tower, this is Viper, requesting landing clearance. Cleared to land, Viper, runway 3, the whole base is watching, no pressure. Sarah smiled. I do my best work under pressure, Tower. She executed a perfect overhead brake, a tactical landing approach used by fighter pilots, rolling inverted at 1,500 feet, pulling hard, bleeding speed, dropping gear and flaps, rolling wings level at 300 feet. The landing was textbook perfect, smooth as glass. As she taxied back to the flight line, she could see them, not just news crews but hundreds of people. Base personnel, families, and in the front row, 50 young women in Civil Air Patrol uniforms, holding signs. Thank you, Viper. You inspired U.S. future fighter pilots. GIRLS Fly 2. Sarah's vision blurred. She shut down the engines, went through her post-flight checklist, and climbed down from the cockpit. Rodriguez met her with a bottle of water. You've got fans, Captain. Sarah walked toward the young women. They couldn't have been older than 16, 17. Their eyes were wide with wonder. Hi, Sarah said simply. The girl in front, holding a future fighter pilot's sign, started crying. You're real. You're actually real. Very real, Sarah said gently. What's your name? Emma, I'm 17. I want to fly F-22s. Because of you, I believe I can. Sarah took Emma's hand. You can work hard, study harder. Never let anyone tell you that you're too small, too young, or too anything. You define your own limits. Understand? Emma nodded, tears streaming. Can I hug you? Of course. Emma hugged her fiercely, and then all 50 girls surrounded her, talking excitedly, asking questions, sharing their dreams. Behind them, cameras recorded everything. Tomorrow, this would be another viral moment. More letters would arrive. More girls would be inspired. And Sarah realized this was her mission now. Not just flying, not just combat, but showing the world that heroes come in unexpected packages. Later that evening, Sarah sat in the ready room with Hawk and Ghost, eating terrible vending machine food and laughing at bad jokes. Just like always. Just like nothing had changed. Except everything had changed. Her phone buzzed. A text from Dorothy. I saw you on the news flying today. You looked like you were dancing with angels. So proud of you, sweetheart. Another from Richard Chen. The foundation just awarded its first scholarship to a girl from El Paso. Thought you should know. Another from Maria, the flight attendant. Started pilot training today. At 43 years old. You taught me it's never too late to chase dreams. Thank you. Sarah set down her phone and looked at Hawk and Ghost. These people who'd flown into danger to escort her home, who'd stood by her through the media circus, who knew her as just V, just their wingman. What are you thinking? Ghost asked. That a week ago, I was just trying to catch a flight home. And instead you became a legend, Hawk said. No, Sarah corrected. I became a reminder that anyone can be extraordinary, that courage doesn't have a size requirement, that the person next to you, the quiet one, the young one, the unexpected one, might be exactly the hero you need. She stood stretching. Come on, we've got a patrol route tomorrow, need to get some sleep. As they walked out into the Virginia night, 3 fighter pilots heading home, Sarah looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, 187 people were living their lives because she'd been in the right place at the right time. Somewhere, young girls were dreaming bigger dreams because they'd seen her story. Somewhere, the next generation of heroes was being born. And tomorrow she'd wake up and do it all again. Not for fame, not for glory, but because this was her calling to protect, to serve, to inspire. The kid from seat 7A had saved 187 lives. But Viper had changed the world. And she was just getting started. The end.